osteoporosis, read it, because the drugs are not working. We have to figure out where it's coming from. There's over 13 million Americans that are actually suffering with osteoporosis. Over 30–50% of them are women. We're actually seeing an increase in men because of the lifestyle that we're living. Now, I'm not a huge fan of, well, I got it because my mother had it, or God waved a wand and I just got osteoporosis. We have to figure out where it's coming from. And the drugs that people are taking, like Fosamax, which is basically a biophosphonate, it's not working. The biophosphonates actually add new bone. The problem is the new bone that they add is not structurally sound. And over time, research has shown that Fosamax actually suppresses bone metabolism. So if we look at bones, the inner part of the bone is the trabecula. Trabecula. E. And they actually are like three-dimensional beams that create, kind of like a honeycomb, a nice structural, solid foundation for the bone. And in there's the immune system, the bone marrow. There's different parts to bone marrow. There's an immune function. There's a filtering function between the different types of bone marrow, the red and the white. You have different minerals like calcium and phosphorus. These actually produce what's called a hydroxyapatite. And this actually produces glue to the bone. So this is really, really important. So keep all these things in mind that I'm talking about. And yes, I'm going to use a lot of big words and big terms, and you might think this is for the practitioner, but the bottom line is if you have osteoporosis, you should know what's going on, because if you know function, you know what's going on, you can easily help to not fix it or cure it, but actually prevent it from getting worse. Now, if we look at bone, you have what's called osteoclasts, which they call reabsorptive part of the bone molecule. And these osteoclasts actually break down bone. Okay, so keep that in mind. Then you have osteoblasts, which build bone up. And I've talked about this before in my older YouTube clips on estrogen dominance. But osteoclasts are actually stimulated by estrogen. Osteoblasts are actually stimulated by progesterone. So you'll see that people that have estrogen dominance, which is not enough progesterone to counteract estrogen, doesn't matter if you have too much or too little, just not enough progesterone, you overproduce osteoclasts, which break down bone. When there's an imbalance between osteoclast and osteoblast, meaning too much breaking down and not enough building up, this is called uncoupled remodeling. Now, what are some of the risk factors for getting osteoporosis? Well, there's millions, but I can only give you some. Depression, eating disorders, any type of PMS issues, cycle issues, menarche issues. Decreased libido, any type of serious trauma, poor nutrition leading to nutrient deficiencies, any type of kidney diseases, GI issues, sedentary lifestyle, smoking, excess alcohol intake, etc., etc., etc. As well as meds such as glucocorticoids, which stimulate the excess production of cortisol, which actually demineralize bone, proton pump inhibitors, which actually decrease HCl production in the stomach, which is part of the immune system, which leads to a calcium in mineral deficiency and nutrient deficiencies because you can't break down your foods, diabetes meds, and diuretics, which actually cause the excess output of calcium in the urine. Okay? So let's look into some of the, I guess, physiology or causes of osteoporosis. Well, I'm going to give you just bullet points, I guess. Chronic inflammation, this is huge. Inflammation from anything actually causes osteoclasts to become aggressive in the body and demineralize bone. There's many things that can cause inflammation in the body. You name it, the foods you eat, the environment that you're in, the emotional stressors, the spiritual stressors, the mental stressors, anything internal and external, parasite, fungus, food intolerances. They're showing that celiac disease or having severe food intolerances causes inflammation. I'll go over this. And this actually causes the demineralization of bone. Elevated blood sugar. Elevated blood sugar from having too much sugar. Now, I'm not talking about just an average amount of eating vegetables, fruits, small amounts of sugar. I'm talking about excess. This produces an increase in what's called advanced glycolylated end products. And you can look that up online. Just Google it. They're called AGEs. This actually increases osteoclast activity in the body. It causes an increase in bone breakdown. As well, AGEs bind to the collagen of the bone, which actually take away the suppleness of the bone and actually take away its strength. So sugar and inflammation are two of the main causes of osteoporosis. And this is why I feel we're seeing men, or an increase in men having osteoporosis, because of all the high fructose corn syrup and all the processed foods people are eating, they're overproducing these agents, which is causing inflammation, which is causing osteoporosis. There's a molecule in the stomach, an enzyme called Ghrelin, Ghrelin, and it's released by the stomach in stimulation. It's released by the stomach anticipation of nutrients, like when you get hungry, and it actually causes a stimulation of the secretion of growth hormone. So this actually rises at mealtime. But in a lot of women, we ignore mealtime because we think the less we eat, the more weight we're going to lose. There's a problem with this because as ghrelin rises, and if you ignore it, growth hormone in the body it's waiting for nutrients. The body's waiting for nutrients. So what happens is the body actually needs to look at other parts of the body or expendable tissues to actually get nutrients from. And guess where the first place ghrelin and growth hormone look for nutrients? Bone, you guessed it. So by ignoring your appetite and not eating the right foods, you're actually causing osteoporosis or the lack of bone because you're basically putting your body into a state where it's going to eat itself. Another interesting fact, leptin. Leptin is a hormone that's produced in fat cells. You guessed it. So the fatter you are, the more weight you have, the more pounds that you weigh, the more outer shape that you are, the more leptin you produce. Now all these things aren't bad. We need them. We just need a balance between them. The problem is, the more leptin you produce, the more you inhibit osteoblasts, and osteoblasts build bone up. So if you inhibit osteoblasts, you leave osteoclasts basically on their own. Osteoclasts are always going to break down bone. Another key point, I think that's super important. Another interesting point is a high salt diet. Now when I say salt, I'm talking about bleached, non-Celtic sea salt. The shit that you see in processed foods, the white table salt that people put in their foods, this basically causes systemic acidosis in the body. Systemic acidosis in the body, or this high salt diet, will actually cause increased urine calcium secretion in the body, just like diuretics do. An increased salt in the body will actually cause, the white salt, increases osteoclastic activity. Osteoclastic activity will break down bone. It's amazing how much nutrition affects our bone. And if you look, this is a really obnoxious statement. I haven't met one person with osteoporosis that goes, I eat organic foods. I eat foods from Mother Earth. I live a healthy lifestyle. I don't smoke, on and on. Most people don't do that, and they're getting the disease based off how they live their lifestyle. Of course, some of it has to do with genetics. We can throw in genetics, but at the same time, do something about it. Do something about it. Don't just sit on your ass. The last thing is chronic inflammation. This is everything I just talked about, but chronic inflammation of any kind. Being obese is an inflammatory disease. This causes heat, so pathogens can't actually grow. It causes swelling, which causes the increase in white blood cells, macrophages, neutrophils, and dendritic cells. The bottom line is these things come in to eat toxins and pull them out, but they also signal and cause the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines in the body. These activate a molecule called NF-κB. Don't want to go into it, but the bottom line is this NF-κB actually causes, it's a protein in your cells. And they're just waiting to be lit. They're like waiting to be lit like a match, but they're actually lit in response to inflammation. The problem is when you light these proteins in your cells, they actually cause systemic inflammation in the body. And when you don't pay attention to the systemic inflammation in the body, and these NF-κB proteins in the cells keep getting signaled by the immune system response, they actually cause a stimulation of a molecule called RANKL, R-A-N-K-L. This molecule actually stimulates osteoclasts that break down bone. So, maybe another YouTube clip, I'll go into it, but the bottom line is, you need to look at what you're eating, how you're living your lifestyle, because all these things play an important factor in causing inflammation in the body. So hopefully you've learned something and understand the why of why you have osteoporosis. And I'll do another YouTube clip on how to actually eliminate it and get better of it and reduce the inflammation. Because the bottom line is, everyone has osteoporosis for a different reason. You might have it because of your sugar intake. You might have it because you're overweight. You might have it because you're not actually exercising enough and creating a piezoelectric charge through the bone, which stimulates osteoblasts to rebuild bone. On and on and on. It's all individualized. So thanks for tuning in. I'm out of here. Enjoy your 4th of July. Peace.